The night she knocked on my door, the rain was falling so hard it sounded like the sky was breaking apart. I remember staring at the clock, 12:47 a.m., and feeling that strange tightening in my chest, the kind that warns you something is about to change forever. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, soaked, trembling, eyes red from crying, I knew whatever she was about to say would rewrite the story of my life. My brother's wife looked at me like I was her last hope and whispered, "Just one night, please." Her name was Hia, and for 5 years, she had been married to my older brother Samir. Samir had always been the golden one in our family, confident, charming, the kind of man who walked into a room and owned it. I was the quieter brother, the one who stayed in the background, who fixed things when they broke and kept my opinions to myself. When Samir introduced Hia to us, she had the soft smile and shy laugh that made the entire house feel warmer. She wasn't loud, but she had presence. She had dreams of opening a small bakery one day, of filling a space with the smell of cinnamon and fresh bread. And she loved my brother with a kind of loyalty that was almost painful to witness. But over the years, something changed. Samir's business started failing. The charm that once drew people in slowly turned into frustration. He began coming home late, irritated at everything and everyone. Arguments became common. I would hear them through the thin walls during family dinners. Her voice trying to stay calm, his rising with sharp edges. Still, she stayed. She believed in marriage like it was sacred ground. She believed love could survive anything. That night, as she stood at my door, I could see the belief had finally cracked. She wasn't carrying a suitcase, just a small handbag clutched tightly to her chest. Her hands were shaking. There was a faint bruise near her wrist that she tried to hide when she noticed me staring. My stomach twisted. I didn't ask questions right away. I just stepped aside and let her in. The apartment smelled like leftover coffee and loneliness. It had been that way since my own engagement fell apart 2 years earlier. I had grown used to silence, but the silence that followed her entrance felt different, heavy charged. She told me in a voice barely above a whisper that she had nowhere else to go. Samir had lost control. Words had turned into shouting, shouting into thrown objects, and tonight into something worse. She kept saying it was her fault for pushing him, for not understanding his stress. Hearing her blame herself ignited something in me I didn't know I still possessed. Anger, yes, but also a fierce protectiveness I couldn't explain. She didn't ask for forever. She didn't ask for a plan. Just one night, one safe night where she could sleep without fear. I gave her my bedroom and took the couch. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain soften into a distant drizzle. My mind raced with questions. Was I betraying my brother by letting her stay? Or was I betraying my own conscience if I sent her back? Blood ties are powerful, but so is the knowledge that someone is being hurt. In the early hours of the morning, I heard her crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quiet broken sobs that seeped through the walls. I clenched my fists, feeling helpless. I wanted to fix everything, to rewind time, to make my brother the man he used to be. But life doesn't work that way. The next morning, she looked smaller, somehow fragile. She thanked me over and over again as if I had done something extraordinary. But all I had done was open a door, and that realization stayed with me. How often do we underestimate the power of simply opening a door? Samir called me that afternoon. His voice was calm, too calm. He asked if Hiro was with me. I didn't lie. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then he accused me of interfering in his marriage, of turning his wife against him. I listened, feeling the old childhood dynamic creeping back, him dominating me, retreating, but this time, I didn't back down. I told him she needed space, that she deserved respect, that fear had no place in love. He hung up on me. Days passed. One night turned into three. Three turned into a week. She helped me cook dinner. She cleaned the apartment without being asked. She would sit by the window in the evenings, staring at the city lights like they were answers she couldn't quite reach. Slowly, she began to talk, not just about the fights, but about herself. About how she had given up her bakery dream because Samir thought it was impracticable. About how she stopped meeting friends because he didn't like it. About how she had started shrinking her world to fit inside his. Listening to her, I realized something painful. Sometimes love doesn't explode all at once. It erodes us. It chips away at your confidence until you don't recognize the person in the mirror. One evening I brought home a small bag of flour, sugar, and yeast, and placed them on the kitchen counter without saying much. She looked at them confused at first. Then her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness this time, but of something softer, hope. That night she baked for the first time in years. The smell of fresh bread filled my apartment, wrapping around us like a promise. For the first time since she arrived, she smiled without forcing it. Samir showed up unexpectedly a few days later. He looked tired, unshaven, pride barely holding him upright. He demanded she come home. He said he would change. He blamed stress, business pressure, everything except himself. I watched her face as he spoke. I saw the battle inside her, the memory of the man she married versus the reality of the man in front of her. She didn't run into his arms. She didn't scream. She simply said she needed more than apologies. She needed action, counseling, respect, space to grow. She needed to open that bakery. Samir laughed at first, dismissing it, but when he realized she wasn't backing down, something in his expression shifted. Maybe it was fear of losing her, maybe it was shame. For the first time, he looked uncertain. He left without another word. Weeks turned into a month. Hia found a small job at a local cafe to save money. I helped her research affordable bakery equipment. Our apartment no longer felt lonely, it felt alive, but it also felt complicated. I was constantly aware of the thin line I was walking. She was my brother's wife. My loyalty was tangled in knots. One evening, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, and thanked me again. She said that one night had given her clarity. Sati had reminded her what she deserved. She told me she had decided to move into a cousin's place while she figured out her next steps. She wasn't ready to return to Samir, and she wasn't sure she ever would be. But she knew she could no longer accept a life built on fear. When she left, the apartment felt quiet again. But it wasn't the same lonely quiet. It was peaceful, purposeful. I had learned something about myself, that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's simply choosing to stand on the right side of someone else's pain. Months later, I walked into a small bakery tucked between a pharmacy and a bookstore. The sign above the door read, "Her Oven." The smell of cinnamon and sugar hit me like a memory. She stood behind the counter, flour on her cheek, laughing with a customer. She looked different, stronger, lighter. Samir and she were in counseling, taking things slowly. She had set boundaries he could no longer ignore. Whether their marriage would survive, I didn't know. But she would survive, and that was what mattered. That stormy night when she whispered, "Just one night, please," I thought I was only offering temporary shelter. I didn't realize I was offering her a turning point. Sometimes we think we need grand gestures to make a difference, but often all it takes is a couch to sleep on, a kitchen to bake in, and someone willing to say, "You're safe here." And in giving her that safety, I found something to, a quiet strength I never knew I